Armin woke with a rejuvenated sort of energy. And somehow he even rose before the other Omegas, despite how much later he stayed up than them. He was smiling all throughout his morning routine over the interactions you shared, the common interest he found with you. This Alpha was so gentle when she spoke to him, touched him, and he realized this was the best he could hope for in his situation. Everything felt vastly different today. Yesterday, he thought he had to win you over. But now, he really wanted to. Was he enamored already? He would certainly deny it if someone asked him. Instead, he was logically smitten. Yes, that's what he would call it. It would be impractical to fall in love so fast, wouldn't it? Of course. And Armin liked to believe himself a pragmatic individual. But he could see the potential that was there. The compatibility. The soft beauty in your features he could stare at all day. Wait, what was I doing? He blinked his distraction away and returned to brushing his teeth. And it was when he heard quiet chatter from the bedroom that the grand smile reappeared on his face. He was all too eager to share his midnight tale with Marco and Bertolt. He couldn't help it. He was simply bursting with the urge to tell someone.
Oh, hey, Armin.
Marco half yawned, half greeted. What are you doing up so early?
Alpha Traveler wants us to wake her before breakfast.
Really? Bertolt sat up and patted down his bedhead. I don't remember her saying that, do you? He watched Marco shake his head before turning his attention back to Armin. Why are you smiling like that? Now that he finally had the chance, he relayed the story to them. Luckily, the other Omegas were used to the way he spewed his words in rapid succession, so they were able to understand. Put spaces between your words, the matron once said to him. And Armin mentally took note to keep that little quirk of his hidden from his Alpha until after he was happily mated. Just in case.
I'm so happy for you, Armin!
See, I knew you'd get this one! Marco exclaimed happily, causing Armin to blush. However, Bertolt looked less convinced, and was wearing a more cautious expression. I'm glad that you got on well with her. But don't you think it would have been more hospitable to bring something to her room? It was clear the taller male wasn't trying to be accusatory at all, only helpful, but it still struck Armin deep enough to make his smile disappear.
Why didn't I think of that?
The blonde mumbled to himself.
You're right, Bertolt. I didn't even offer that. So she probably only came along with me out of politeness as a guest.
This wasn't the first occurrence of something like this. Bertolt often gently corrected him when his behavior strayed from what alphas find suitable. After all, he was the one who was always praised for his optimized traits of Omeganess, whereas Armin was not. So he appreciated the aid.
I feel like an idiot. Instead of being a good host, I talked her ear off and dragged her all the way to the kitchen.
But you said you two hit it off, didn't you? Marco interjected, trying to comfort the crestfallen blonde. It's not like she acted as though she was trying to get rid of you, right? It was a rhetorical question, one meant to be optimistic. But it immediately sparked a newly tainted memory from the night before. You had offered him the option to go to sleep and leave you alone if he wanted. And now it was unclear to Armin whether that was out of genuine concern for his comfort, like he originally took it, or if it was really a subtle hint of dismissal.
I didn't think so, but I'm not so sure now.
The determination that heated his blood this morning was turning cold, and now he was doubting the validity of all his positive thoughts from the prior evening. Well, no point in worrying about it now. Bertolt rested a consoling hand on his shoulder. Let's go wake her for breakfast. How about we bring her breakfast in bed? Marco suggested brightly, popping out of bed. That'll make up for it, right?
Yeah.
And Armin was smiling once more. Hope reignited. A pesky cardinal outside your oversized window disturbed your slumber earlier than you had hoped. You let your eyes rest closed for a while, knowing even if you fell asleep again, the Omegas would come wake you. Alertness decided to be your companion despite how tired you felt, which probably had something to do with the heavy decision weighing on your mind. 3. One of those 3 was going to be your mate. You were going to take care of him. Share a home with him. Make love to him. For some reason, this fact hadn't really set in until now. Would he ever love you, you wondered? Or would he fake it forever, out of sheer fear of the societal consequences that could befall him for doing the opposite? Were other alphas plagued by these same fears? If they were, they certainly never said so. No, it was because of someone else that these thoughts were brought to the forefront of your mind. The words of the little Omega you spoke to last night. With just 2 quotes from an old philosopher, your eyes had been opened to something you didn't want to see. Armin's favorite quote from the book.
Nothing has ever been more insupportable for a man in a human society than freedom.
It was with that citation that you now understood your differing points of view in a staggering and harsh light. He had said so much, while saying so little. Here he was, this innocent Omega, crying out for freedom, for the right to seek his own happiness. And you, the stupid romantic, blindly chose a quote that values love above all else.
You total hypocrite. You only have the convenience of seeking love because you have the authority to do so. The privilege.
You groaned and threw the covers over your face, full of regret. I must have sounded like a spoiled brat to him. It stung that you made a fool of yourself so early in this endeavor. So much for that one, I guess. Perhaps you'd have a better shot with one of the other 2 Omegas. But it was really such a shame. You liked him. Maybe it wasn't too late, you contemplated. He did bid you good night with a fondness, didn't he? Unless he was the most fantastic actor you'd ever seen. You got the impression he enjoyed your company, in spite of your impetuous way of speaking. A soft rapping on the door interrupted your wallowing. Oh, he was here! You sat up quickly and raked your fingers through your hair.
Come in!
An odd series of whispering came from behind the door for a moment.
Are you sure it's not too early?
I don't think so.
Does my shirt look okay?
It's fine, Armin.
She said come in, we should probably go.
Hello?
Oh! Good morning, Alpha.
The door opened and Armin shuffled into the room.
Did I perish in my sleep? A little angel has come to take me away.
When he knocked, you had been panicking about what you were going to say to him. But fortunately, your mouth just so happened to erupt with the right words. Thank heavens for Alphan mating instinct. Without it, you would have been set adrift in a sea of awkward, never to return. Armin smiled bashfully, scratching his cheek lightly with his index finger.
Alpha's so charismatic!
An outburst came from the hallway and you tilted your head to look.
Is that you out there, Freckles?
You hollered with excitement.
It's both of us!
He popped his head in and reached across the doorway, pulling Bertolt into the room with him.
Aw, I'm glad to see you,
you sang happily, unable to help yourself from catching Marco's infectious bubbliness.
Likewise, Alpha!
He took a large step forward until he was parallel with the blonde at your bedside. Since Armin told us that you were up late last night, we wanted to bring you breakfast in bed.
Oh, that's really not necessary.
Please? Armin begged simply, cobalt eyes dreamy and wistful.
How could you say no to that?
It's really no trouble. Bertolt finally spoke, the soft and refined voice of a gentleman.
Yes!
Marco clenched his fists in front of him.
Let us show you our lackluster cooking skills!
Speak for yourself, Bertolt replied, and you let out a laugh. This Omega seemed to have a dry sense of humor that you enjoyed.
All right, if you insist. Breakfast in bed sounds lovely.
They all perked up at your surrender.
What would you like, Alpha?
Armin asked, and you pursed your lips in thought.
Surprise me, my sweet Omegas. Marco's smile widened at that.
We'll be back soon, Alpha. So feel free to take it easy.
With that, they bowed out, and you arched into a satisfying stretch. A few seconds passed before you heard a series of hushed whispers behind the closed door.
What do you think we should get her?
Marco asked. I'm not an expert on what they like to eat, Bertolt admitted, but at least the last two alphas seemed to like the breakfast quiche I made them.
Right, but both those times you had an early start. I don't want to keep her waiting too long.
That's true. Do they not know I can hear them? You suppressed a giggle. How cute! Just like their sub-optimized night vision, it became evident that the Omegas didn't possess the same keen hearing as an alpha like you. Except when it came to the frequency of crying infants, that is. For that they were vastly more suited. Or so you'd read in the past.
I have an idea,
Armin proposed quietly.
Why don't we all make her something different? That way she has more than one option and can choose her favorite. A competition,
Marco mused.
I like it. No, that's not what I meant to.
Let's go!